buried alive. This one can barely be considered an urban legend, considering how often people have been buried alive. In fact, in the past, many coffins were equipped with strings that ran through the ground and were connected to a bell not far away. This way, if anyone did happen to be buried alive, they could pull the string and get the undertaker's attention. Body under the bed. This legend tells the story of a couple spending the night in a hotel room that is filled with a foul odor. After a while, they can't take it anymore and call the front office. When the staff arrives, they discover the smell is coming from the bed, after which they remove the mattress, only to find a rotting body beneath. As crazy as the story sounds, unlike the previous legends on this list, it has actually happened more than once. The clown statue. This urban legend tells the story of a girl babysitting for a family when she calls the parents and asks if she can cover up a disturbing clown statue in the corner of the living room. The dad tells her very seriously to grab the kids, go next door, and call 911 without any further explanation. Once she is next door and the police are on the way, she calls her father back, who then explains that they don't have a clown statue. Furthermore, the kids had been complaining about a clown watching them in their sleep, but the parents had written it off as children's nightmares. In most versions of the story, the clown turns out to be a dwarf who had been living in their house for some time undetected. When the babysitter came over, he didn't have time to escape, so he just froze in the corner. The boyfriend's death. This legend also involves two young lovers stopped on an abandoned country road. The boyfriend gets out of the car to use the bathroom but doesn't come back for some time. The girl decides to get out and go looking for him, only to see a dark figure in the shadows. She runs back to the car and tries to start it, but realizes that the back bumper has been tied to a tree. She then hears a scream, and after turning around, she sees her boyfriend hanging from a tree. The Hook. This legend tells the story of a young boy and girl who drove off into the woods only to hear on the radio that a convicted killer with a hook for one arm had just escaped from a nearby mental facility. The boy simply locks the car door and insists that they stay, but the girl wants to leave. The boy then reluctantly takes off, and when they return home, depending on the version of the story, there is a bloody hook hanging on the outside of the handle of the car door. The 9/11 tourist. Shortly after 9/11, a photo began to circulate showing a tourist standing atop one of the World Trade Centers with one of the planes in the background of the shot about to strike the tower. The accompanying story explained how the camera was found in the wreckage, but the tourist remained missing. Aside from all the very inconsistent details in the picture, the story already seemed completely improbable, and several people came forward claiming to be the prankster responsible. It wasn't until recently, however, that the real culprit was discovered in Hungary. He since has apologized to the families for making light of their situation. Aren't you glad you didn't turn on the light? Widely circulated on college campuses, this legend tells the story of two girls about to have a big test the next day. One of the girls gets invited to a party the night before, and when she returns to her dorm room, she doesn't want to wake her friend, so she goes straight to bed. When she wakes up in the morning, she rolls over to find her friend has been brutally murdered during the night, and written on the wall in blood is the phrase, "Aren't you glad you didn't turn on the lights?" And what is one of the more disturbing urban legends out there, a teenage girl is given a dog by her parents to keep her company while they're away. One night while she was awakened by a dripping sound, she got up and went to turn off the tap properly, after which she came back to bed while letting her hand hang over the edge as the dog licked her fingers. The dripping sound didn't stop though, so this scenario played out several more times, with the girl returning to bed and falling asleep with the dog licking her fingers yet again. The final time, however, she decides to try to locate exactly where the drip is coming from. She looks around only to find the sound emerging from within the cupboard. She opens it up to find her dog with its neck cut and a note saying, "Humans can lick too," the babysitter. This urban legend tells the story of a babysitter that starts getting phone calls from a strange man asking her questions that get progressively more personal and conclude with whether or not she has checked the children. She ends up calling the police, who proceed to trace the stranger's call. They immediately call the babysitter back and tell her to get the kids out of the house immediately because the calls are coming from within the home itself. It is at this moment that the police arrive to find a man upstairs in the room where the kids were sleeping, but it is already too late as the kids have been brutally murdered. Possibly one of the oldest urban legends still being told is the story of a motorist who picks up a female hitchhiker on a lonely stretch of road. He then drives her home only to find that she has disappeared from his back seat. After knocking on her door, he is told the girl died in a car accident years ago in the very same spot that he picked her up.